Welcome back to the channel. Okay, today's video we are talking about the worst things you can do before your run. Okay, if that sounds like something that you are into, well, you're in for a treat. Listen, if this is your first time here, my name is Matt. On this channel we talk about all things running. If you like running, then go ahead and subscribe to this channel. If later on, after you watch this video, if you get any value from it, if you get any value from any of my other videos, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps out the channel. And remember to hit that bell icon so you're notified every time I drop a new video. Okay, so I'm going for a run in just a moment, but before I go, I'm going to give you the first worst thing, right? The first worst thing to do before you go for a run, and that is static stretching. It isn't like it used to be. Most people know that static stretching isn't a good thing before your workout. So what exactly is it? Well, it's those stretches where you're still and you're just holding your muscles in a stretch. You might be wondering, why can't I static stretch before I go for my run? It feels good. When you stretch your muscles, it does feel good. It stretches it out, but it sends a signal to the brain, or it affects the connection between the brain and the muscle, and a protective reflex ensues, so it stops your muscle from being overstretched. That protective reflex actually stops your muscles from contracting as forcefully, and it decreases the strength and the power of the muscle for a short time after. Just don't do it. Don't static stretch before you run. Now remember, this video is just about the worst things to do before you run. After your run is when static stretching really plays a part in your maintenance, in your recovery from your run. In fact, static stretching, if you use it as a maintenance stretching program, it will actually reduce your risk of injury. Just don't do it when you're cold before you're going out for your run. But Matt, I need to warm up. I need to warm up before my run. What do? Dynamic stretching. I do have a video on my pre-run stretching routine already made, and it shows you some dynamic stretches that will get you ready to get out for your run. I will go ahead and link that right above my head. I forget which side it is. Anyway, worst thing you can do before you go for a run, static stretching. Guys, stay tuned. We are going for a run right now. When we come back, I'm going to let you know on the other worst things that you can do. I hope you can see it. It's an enormous rainbow. Beautiful. No rain, no rainbows, right? All right, guys, another soaker of a run. Wow, okay, that was really good. So I was able to get up super early before the sunrise today. So I mean, that made a big difference because it was toasty out there. The weather right now is 81 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 27.22 Celsius. I mean, the sun is just a little bit over the horizon now, but the feels like temperature 90 degrees or 32 point something Celsius. Definitely toasty. I was able to knock out 14.4 miles today, which is about 23.18 kilometers, an average pace of 8:28 a mile, which is 5:16 a kilometer. At about 13.8, so just over half a mile before I stopped, there was a rain shower that came out of nowhere. Like, there was no clouds above me, but this rain shower came, and it was the most refreshing thing. I wish I was more articulate to put into words how wonderful it felt, but you can imagine just getting a little wet with cooler water after running in those temperatures. It was pretty nice, and actually the trees are still dripping on me now from that shower. Okay, so what are we talking about today? The worst things to do before your run. So we already talked about static stretching. Now, before I go on to the next worst thing you can do, I'm actually going to do that in the house once I get cleaned up. Believe it or not, it is not pleasant to be recording videos out here after a run in these temperatures. It's pretty miserable. But we talked about static stretching, how it's bad before your run. After your run is when we can actually get into some static stretches and actually hold those stretches so they feel really good. And in the future, I'm going to make a video about some pre-run and post-run stretching, so you're going to want to stay tuned for the channel for all that. If you've been watching for a while, you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go home, I'm going to shower, I'm going to eat breakfast, then I'm going to finish telling you about the worst things you can do before you run. I'll see you inside. every single day. It feels really good to get showered and get cleaned up after the run. The run is in the books and I can just enjoy the air conditioning of being inside. Okay, but let's get moving right on to the next worst thing that you can do before you run, and that is eating too much. I've done it and it's miserable. So you're asking, why can't I eat too much before I go for my run? I mean, I need fuel for that run, so I should eat, right? Well, yes and no. If you eat and then immediately go out for your run, all that blood that's in your body that's helping your stomach digest the food, all right? All that blood is diverted to the muscles so you can run effectively, and your body isn't digesting the food efficiently. It can lead to some pretty disturbing side effects. Cramping, stitches, GI distress, which could lead to some other pretty horrific things happening on your run. If you do have to eat before you go for a run, just give it a little time. I would say at least an hour before, but preferably 2 hours before. I prefer to go for my runs without eating. So anytime up to a long run. So let's say if I'm going 20 miles, I may have something small and then pack some gels. But if I'm racing, I always make sure to eat about 2 to 3 hours before a race. That just leaves me feeling really good by the time the race starts. Now, if you guys have been watching this channel for a while, you know that there are some days that I work late, so I have to get up late, and I haven't eaten since the night before, and it's getting pretty late in the morning, so I actually wake up hungry. And on those days, I do eat before I go for my run. Like immediately before I go for my run, I will have a couple bananas, a bowl of cereal, a cup of coffee. And I've kind of found that sweet spot, right? I found that sweet spot where I know how much I can eat and still feel good on my run. And there are some days when I'm especially hungry that I might break my own rule and have a third banana before going for my run. And on those days, I'm sorry, because I know that 2 bananas is good, 3 bananas is just too much, and it just doesn't lead to a good feeling running. So what am I saying? What does this boil down to? It boils down to knowing your body, knowing what works for you. Everyone's going to be just a little different, and maybe you can eat half an hour before you go for a run, or maybe you don't have to eat at all. If you're going for a run of an hour or less, you definitely don't need to eat before you go for a run. You have enough stored energy to get you through that run. Just figure it out. Figure it out and what works for you, and you have a much better time. Just don't eat too much before you go for your run. It's not pretty. Okay, let's move right on to the third thing. The third thing is very similar to the second thing, but instead of talking about food, we're talking about drinks. So I want you to avoid drinking too much or too little before you go for your run. That's right, it has to be in the Goldilocks zone right around here. Not too much, not too little. You don't want to go for a run and have the sloshies. That is the worst thing, when the liquid is all sloshing about in your stomach, and if you're running with people, which generally doesn't happen anymore, but they can all hear it and you're kind of embarrassed and it's just not comfortable. It's another uncomfortable feeling. So just like the last thing, I need you to figure out what works best for you. And I say what works best for you because listen, we're all different, and there are different temperatures, there are different levels of humidity, there are different factors in the environment as well as personally that is going to make your liquid needs different from mine. So generally speaking, before a run, I will have 1 cup of coffee. I find that 1 cup of coffee is enough to just get me going. Kind of wakes me up, and that amount of time that it takes me to sit here and drink the coffee and check the YouTube messages for all you guys writing to me, that is the perfect amount of time I need to feel good, to wake up before I go out for my run. I know everyone's different, you all live in different places. Find out what works best for you. The next worst thing is something that I want you to avoid not doing, if that makes sense. And that's going to the loo. I want you to try and use the restroom before you go out for your run. And here's why. No one wants to interrupt their run because nature calls and you have to go. You can actually schedule your bathroom habits so they are predictable. Again, like some of the other things not to do before you run, you can figure this out and what works best for you. I've read that coffee can sometimes get things moving, so you should avoid that before your run. On the other hand, coffee kind of gets things moving, so you should drink that before you run. This becomes increasingly important on race day because we don't want to waste time running into a porta potty on the side of the race course. But when you're running around your home, not only is it important for training for the racing, but you may not have public bathrooms on your route. And if you can train yourself to go to the bathroom before your runs, your races will be quicker. Going to the porta potty and not going to the porta potty is the difference in a PR and a mediocre race. Just quickly, there are some specific foods that do contribute to GI issues when you're running, and that includes dairy products, wheat products, artificial sweeteners, caffeine, sugar. I mean, we can't avoid all of them. There is no way that I am avoiding caffeine, but I know what works for me. Find out what works for you and make sure you use the bathroom before you go for your run. You will thank me. Of course, if this is the first time you're hearing of it, you are obviously a very new runner. One more worst thing you can do before you go for your run, and that is not listening to your body. We want to be fit, right? We want to be ready when the races come back. But if you don't listen to your body, you are inviting injury. You're inviting overtraining. If you're feeling especially tired, if you're feeling overly fatigued, if you have a history of injuries, all those can be a sign that it may be better to take an extra day off. Maybe do a little cross training instead of going for your run. I know that for me and Harmony, we got the Peloton so we could work out when we can't go for our run. 5 worst things to do before you go for your run. If you got any value from this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel and I appreciate it. If you are still watching this right now, I just want to give you a big fist bump. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Guys, I put new videos out twice a week and we do a live stream every single week. I am going to wrap it up right here. Guys, be kind, be happy, run well. I'll see you next time.